Welcome to the Explainer. Getting a personality is easy, actually. Seriously, let's just dive right into this, because today we're taking on a super frustrating myth that honestly, almost everyone has fallen for at some point. There's this huge misconception out there that having a personality, being that instantly memorable, fascinating person in the room, is this mysterious, innate trait. Like you're either born with it or you're totally out of luck. We treat getting a personality like trying to break into Fort Knox. But looking at our source material today, it turns out it's more like breaking into a bank where the security guard is literally a cardboard cutout. It is shockingly easy. And by the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly how to systemize the whole process. So to really understand why we struggle with this so much as adults, we gotta look back at how we were as kids. Think about it. When you were younger, having an identity was just so effortless. Your entire personality could literally be just Harry Potter, knowing random facts about frogs, and being an absolute menace at Connect 4. That was it. That's the whole shebang. An adult could meet you, and within like 40 seconds, they'd completely peg you as the Harry Potter Connect 4 frog kid. It was a totally defined identity. Fast forward to now, right? You're an adult at a networking event or a dinner party, someone strikes up a basic conversation, and you just blank. Your mind goes completely empty, and you end up mumbling something about really liking Netflix. And after the 82nd time in a row of not being able to name a single actual hobby, you start panicking. You start feeling like, oh my gosh, do I just not have a personality at all? And when that panic sets in, what do? You look for advice. But let's be real, most of the advice out there is just terrible. The source material has this fantastic quote that hits the nail on the head. Most people say, be yourself, but that's just extrovert propaganda. I mean, I love that because it totally validates the frustration. Extroverts have this annoying habit of being interesting just by existing, right? They've got these social wizard tactics that an introvert might logically understand, but could absolutely never execute in the wild. So if you can't just naturally and loudly be yourself, you turn to Google. And Google just blasts you with generic ads for personality tests, self-help books, or the most boring advice ever. Take a pottery class. Travel more. But guys, let's be honest, taking one single pottery class or catching a flight doesn't magically bestow a personality upon you. It certainly doesn't make you instantly memorable. Which inevitably brings us face to face with the absolute nightmare of a question. So what do you do for fun? The dreaded conversation starter. If you don't have that natural extrovert flair and that random pottery class didn't magically transform your identity, your mind just goes completely blank here. You suddenly realize that your actual goal isn't just to check generic hobbies off a list. What you really care about is just seeming interesting to the person standing right in front of you. You want to have actual things to talk about. And more importantly, you want people to actually remember you after they walk away.
So how do we actually pull that off? Well, enter the spike method. This is the core solution here, and it is honestly fascinating. The spike method is actually a strategy used in college admissions to help regular, everyday students get into Ivy League schools. And no, it doesn't involve your parents donating a massive library building to the campus. See, college admissions officers are literally paid to hunt down applicants who have cool, memorable personalities. And they found that the essays with the highest success rates, they aren't the ones from well-rounded kids. They're from applicants who are deeply, intensely invested in something super niche. We're talking competitive knitting or researching the medical applications of the game Tetris. When you're in the top 1% of something highly obscure, admissions officers refer to it as a spike because on a totally flat, boring resume, it violently sticks out.
Let's look at a surprisingly engaging example to see how this plays out in real life. Imagine, just for a second, that you decide your brand new interest is cleaning. Okay, I know, stay with me here. But imagine you don't just kind of sort of like cleaning. You totally lean into it. You're spending time every single day learning about cleaning methods, you're deep diving into cleaning lore, watching hours of videos, and eventually you save up, you buy a pressure washer, and you start literally blasting the gunk off people's driveways. It's incredibly niche, right? But suddenly, you aren't just that person who likes Netflix anymore. You have a clearly defined hook. Now, let's revisit that terrible weekend question. You could give the boring answer. Oh, I don't know, I'm probably just going to fold my clothes. And boom, the conversation instantly dies. But imagine using your new spike instead. I'm going to fold my clothes using the world's fastest folding method. I mean, immediately the other person is going to go, wait, what? That exists? And you casually say, yeah, you want to learn it? Look at the difference there. It's night and day. Or if someone is complaining about being bored, instead of just chiming in with a, yeah, me too, you offer to bring your pressure washer over to shoot the dirt off their driveway. Suddenly, you're the memorable cleaning expert. You've completely bypassed all those boring pleasantries. So, how do we actually build this out? It is literally just 3 simple steps to engineer this for yourself. Step 1. Find something that interests you, no matter how weird or obscure it is. Actually, scratch that. The weirder the better. Step 2. Gain experience in it. Dive headfirst into those YouTube rabbit holes, read the weird forums, practice the skill until you know just slightly more about it than the average person walking down the street. And step 3, when you're introducing yourself to people, talk about this weird thing. Don't stress about whether they share the hobby or not. Just worry about bringing your unique, genuine passion to the conversation.
And step 4? Well, there is no step 4. It truly is that straightforward. You absolutely don't need a 10-year plan or some massive, complete personality overhaul. The beauty of this whole method is that your spike doesn't have to define your entire existence forever. You don't have to talk about pressure washing or speed folding laundry for the rest of the night. That obscure little thing, it just serves as a battering ram to get your foot in the door of a conversation. Once they're hooked and they see you as this fascinating person with a defined trait, you can super easily pivot back into totally normal conversations. Now, if you're sitting there doubting whether this can actually work for you, just look at this number, 99%. Because the topics you choose for your spike are so incredibly niche, it takes almost zero time to become a leading expert relative to the general public. Literally, in less than a single month of this casually studying up on something like robotic vacuum mechanics or competitive Connect Force strategies, you are going to accumulate more experience and knowledge in that specific subject than 99% of people will ever have in their entire lifetimes. You instantly become an authority. And being an authority, that is inherently fascinating to other people.
The golden rule of spikes: communication. Now, before you run off and try all of this, there is a very important disclaimer we need to cover. Because here's the thing, having a spike is completely useless if you can't explain it to regular people. Let's use a gaming example to show exactly where people go wrong with this. Let's say you've spent the last month becoming an absolute, undisputed expert in the video game Minecraft. That is a totally valid spike. But if you walk up to a total stranger at a party and immediately launch into this hyper-specific rant about how you figured out a way to beat Minecraft without ever touching the ground, you are going to lose them instantly. It's an incredibly impressive achievement for sure, but the vast majority of people out there don't know the intricate mechanics of Minecraft, let alone the fact that beating the game without touching the floor was even a challenge to begin with. You've just skipped way too many steps. Instead, you have to build a narrative bridge. People will honestly listen to almost any topic, no matter how wild or weird it is, as long as they can understand the progression. So first, just briefly explain what the game or the hobby actually is. Keep it simple. Second, tell them the story of how you personally got into it. Give it that relatable human element. Third, explain the normal way to beat it or achieve the goal. And only then, for step 4, do you drop the punchline and explain the crazy, weird thing you did, like never touching the ground. You have to give people the context so they can actually appreciate your weirdness. Think of it this way. You've got a PhD volcano scientist who knows literally everything there is to know about magma, but they use these massive words and heavy, dense jargon. You'd tune out immediately, right? Now compare that to Bill Nye the Science Guy. He explains incredibly complex things so simply and with so much enthusiasm that people are absolutely fascinated. When you're sharing your spike, you cannot be the boring PhD. You have got to be Bill Nye. So, what is your spike going to be? We've totally unraveled the myth today. We know that generic extrovert propaganda just doesn't work for most of us. And we know that standing out is literally as simple as dedicating just 1 month to an obscure, weird niche and then learning how to communicate it like Bill Nye. Which leaves us with one final incredibly important question for you to chew on after this explainer. What is your spike going to be? Are you going to be the pressure washer expert, the competitive clothes folder? The choice is entirely up to you, but it is officially time to go out there and find your weird thing. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go find that 1% niche that makes you unforgettable.